As I said, good evening and welcome to Feedback. We are going to talk politics tonight, though we tend to do that a good bit on this program. We're going to spend the entire half hour talking about that. Joining us tonight is our two professors from Clarion University, folks you've seen on our air before, Dr. Keven Yenerall and Dr. Barry Sweet. We'll be talking with them, but what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and get one commercial break out of the way. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about everything from campaign finance reform. I think I have Gary Condit's name on this list. Enron, you name it. We're talking about it. Stay with us. Feedback continues after the break.
On Route 322, 1 mile east of Clarion, Bull Arena offers rock and bull every Friday and Saturday night, and a game room with 8 pool tables and arcade games. Bull Arena also offers bumper bowling for kids' birthdays and league play for adults. Call 764-3471. Again, that's 764-3471.
This portion of the programming was made possible through a grant by the Captain Loomis Hotel and Restaurant. The Captain Loomis Hotel and Restaurant is located at 540 Main Street in Clarion and offers dining as well as a nightclub. The restaurant and nightclub are open 7 days a week for your convenience. Call the Captain Loomis Hotel and Restaurant 226-8400.
Do you want complete coverage of local, state, national, and international news as it happens?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TV5 News Live.
Then tune in to Clarion's very own TV5 News Live for complete coverage of the Clarion area and our world. TV5 News crews join with crews from the world's news leader, CNN, to provide complete coverage of the day's events. With advanced satellite capabilities, TV5 News can bring you the latest news as it happens. So tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings for Clarion's very own TV5 News Live.
Welcome back. As I said, we are talking politics. It's kind of just a free-for-all about anything and everything political tonight. It should be fun. This is the kind of stuff I enjoy. As I said, let me reintroduce my guest, Dr. Keven Yenerall from the Political Science Department here at Clarion University, as well as Dr. Barry Sweet from the Political Science Department. Let's briefly hit upon campaign finance reform. We're all of a sudden, we're hearing about it again. Maybe we're hearing about it because of Enron or whatever, but it's going to go for a vote tomorrow. Can this pass the House and Senate? Anyone?
Well, one version of the Shays-Meehan bill has already passed the Senate, and now it's over in the House. And initially, that wasn't going to get out of committee. The discharge petition was achieved, got the 218 votes they needed, got it onto the floor. And now, I think the next couple of days, you're going to see efforts to amend it, and amend it in a way that might possibly kill it. At least that's what the opponents are hoping for. In fact, some of the Republicans are talking about restoring Shays-Meehan to its original form when it first went to the Senate, and the Senate changed it, took a few things out because they found some items unacceptable. So now there'll be an effort to put those back in, and the idea that if it gets through the House in that form, then it won't get back through the Senate again. And so that's the strategy, I think.
I pretty much agree with that. When you follow what's happened to campaign finance reform over the last 5 or so years, it picks up speed, and Shays-Meehan has passed the House. Some versions of it have passed the Senate, but inevitably, runs into difficulty when the amendment process begins, because then if you want to kill legislation, the best thing to do is to put on these poison amendments that offend constituency groups either on the left or the right, and I would think that's going to happen again. So I would not be too optimistic that it's going to pass.
I kind of got the sense for a while that the whole Enron thing was going to possibly make this pass. That we're going to see renewed focus on it because people were saying, look, there is too much money in this. Am I wrong in thinking that was a possible because of Enron?
Well, I think the Enron debacle certainly got the 218 votes to get the discharge petition and then get it onto the floor. But I think once again, it'll be amended to death. And if anything ever does get through both chambers, it'll be a much watered down bill.
I think the Enron situation, as Barry mentioned, did help push it a bit, because certainly if you believe there's too much money in politics and you believe that interest groups with a lot of money have more power and more access than those that don't, and there is some research to show that that's the case, though the political scientists debate it, then you would be in favor of campaign finance reform. Certainly John McCain, Christopher Shays from Connecticut, most of the liberals in Congress and the Senate are in favor of it, and Thad Cochran, actually a conservative from Mississippi, has signed on to it. But it hasn't been successful yet in passing. But Enron, I think, certainly has brought more attention to it, because Enron has friends in high places in the Bush administration, just as there are some groups that have friends in high places in the Democratic administration. But, Kenneth Lay and Enron is pretty closely tied to the Bush administration. Whether or not that caused any undue influence, there at least is a perception of it, and because of that, you can score political points with it and then try to pass campaign finance reform.
Well, speaking of Enron, Ken Lay came out and pleaded the Fifth today. The other day, one of the stories we had, they actually did it quite humorously. They showed back-to-back each new executive saying, I, on vice of counsel, take the Fifth. And last Thursday on this program, I was talking about political versus economical story. I see Enron as we need to learn about the economics of this. We need to learn about, how do we fix corporations in this. Enron put all this money into politics. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. But is it turning too political, maybe? Or is it that's just going to happen?
Well, I think a lot of these hearings are being called for grandstanding. It's a good time to get on there and blast these executives. It's good for the constituency. They like to see that. They want to see somebody go after these people. But I think in terms of, Dr. Yenerall mentioned that the Bush administration's had some close ties with Enron. You have to remember that the Enron gave about $500,000 to Democrats and about $1.1 million to the Republicans. It's 2-to-1 to Republicans, but both of them are bathed in Enron money.
Sure.
So it'd be kind of hard, I think, to smear each other too much with that. So I think it really is more grandstanding right now, but I think it will end up being more of a financial story, and there will be some new rules coming down in terms of accounting, in terms of auditing versus consulting, how 401k plans are managed. So I think there will be some results, but I'm not sure it's overly political. It's just being made that way.
I think it has a lot of political ramifications for a number of reasons, not just because of campaign finance reform, but legislation to protect pensions. And remember, a lot of people lost their savings over this, and a very few people at the top made out like bandits. And so that's going to push, for the public to ask Congress, to ask the Senate to do something about it. Both parties do get a lot of Enron money, but the political problem for the Bush administration is they're bathed in more money than the Democrats. George Bush's campaign plane was lent to him, was given to him by Lay. He was reimbursed to some degree for it, but he flew from town to town on Lay's plane. Lay gave much more money to George W. Bush than Ann Richards when Bush was governor of Texas. Enron executives really had a de facto, really had a vote for cabinet positions in the Bush administration. Whether or not certain people would serve in the administration, Kenneth Lay and some others had quite a bit of say. Spencer Abraham wouldn't be the energy secretary if some of those folks, including Kenneth Lay, had not signed off on it. So they have an awful lot of influence. Whether or not it's undue influence or too much, well, that's why there's hearings. All hearings are generally political. Democrats are wanting to score political points. Republicans want to score political points with Whitewater. The question is there any smoking gun here? Did the money buy favors? Did the Bush administration know more than they say they knew? And could they have done something about it? We don't know, all right? And so I'll be curious to see what happens. But definitely I think pensions and 401ks, there might be some good legislation to come out of this to protect people.
Speaking of political points, did Senator Byrd score any points the other day when he kind of sparred with Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill about who grew up poorer? It seemed like what they were fighting about. I mean,
Byrd was pretty poor, I think.
Well, yeah, so was O'Neill. I was watching that, I was laughing at it. I just couldn't believe that they did that, and it was probably live on CNN in the afternoon for half the country to laugh at. I mean, what was your take on that?
I don't think either person got the upper hand on that. I think they both looked sort of foolish, bragging about who was poor. You know, they both said they had homes without electricity, without water, they had outhouses, and then finally, you know, Bob Byrd at the end said his ladder had no rungs. You know, so it was. I don't know how admirable that was. I don't think either one got the upper hand. I'd like to sort of know how that started, because they only showed clips of it. They didn't really show us how that all got started.
I admit, Mark, I didn't see the who was poor debate, although they both do pretty darn well right now.
Yeah, really.
Byrd is an institution in West Virginia when you look at all the jobs that he's brought back to West Virginia and so forth. So, you know, Byrd's an interesting character. He was very poor. He also, as a young man, was a member of the Klan many years ago. But not surprising, Byrd's a pretty populist Democrat, particularly on budget issues. He's not a fan of the Bush budget and the tax cut and the fiscal policies, supply-side fiscal policies. So not surprising to see him go after Paul O'Neill, but it's safe to say they're both in pretty good shape financially now. I like Bob Byrd because of him dressing down Rick Santorum years ago in an elevator after Santorum yelled at Republican leadership and Senator Hatfield, but that's getting into minutia from 7 years ago. But anyway,
well, I mean, you know, I did think the whole exchange was silly, but O'Neill, I think, can almost afford to do it because, well, he's appointed to that position. I mean, no one's going to vote him into it. Is it not even worth discussing Bob Byrd saying these things, because his constituents going to hold that against him? Is it even worth bringing that point up? Do they care? I mean, because you're right. Look what he brings to that. I mean, it's like West Bob Byrd, Virginia.
Well, I lived in West Virginia for a number of years, and he certainly is a legend down there. And excuse me. I think he's bulletproof in terms of elections. No one's going to unseat Bob Byrd until he decides to retire. So I don't think there's any problem there. I think one reason why O'Neill's been picked on a lot, not just by Byrd, but by a lot of people in Congress, is you can't pick on the president right now when he's riding 80-some% approval rating, so you pick on his henchmen. And O'Neill really isn't a very attractive guy. He's not like Colin Powell or Rumsfeld, and so I think he's somebody easy to sort of beat up on, and that's why I think he's been getting a lot of hits lately.
That's interesting.
Interesting. It's a perfect point. Democrats are in a real problem here, a real politically unsavory position, because they want to go after George W. Bush, particularly on the economy, on taxes, on deficit, on some issues. But George Bush is riding high with 83% approval rating, and that's rubbing off on Republicans in Congress. Even Republicans in Congress are receiving high marks, and that is in large part due to George W. Bush's popularity because of the war on terrorism and so forth. So Democrats are at least hoping by the time we get into the summer and we go into these very pivotal fall elections for the House and the Senate, that some of this will wear off, much like George Bush's father. Whether or not that happens, Democrats don't know, and they're in a real bad pickle of a situation here. How do you speak out against a popular president when you want to hit him on the economy, but he's popular in large part because of the wartime situation? So they have a lot of trouble right now.
You beat up on his Treasury Secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah.
And Enron.
And Enron. I had you guys down here last week for a segment on TV5 News, and one thing unfortunately got cut. We were talking about the State of the Union address, and the thing that got cut was the axis of evil. Speak to this whole concept of referring to Iran, Iraq, North Korea as the axis of evil, and I also thought it was odd in watching the opening ceremonies to see Iran was the only one who was there, for them to walk in and they showed George W. Bush sitting up there, very very stoic. What's your take on that? I mean, on the Olympics and the politics of that?
Go ahead.
Well, I will tell you an excellent question, Mark. I was puzzled by the axis of evil situation in the State of the Union. Granted, the president was trying to put together really two speeches. One that was primarily wartime, homeland security, and then a little bit, oh, by the way, on the economy. And so I think there was some awkwardness there, but given the amount of tension given to foreign policy and the war on terrorism, I was surprised at the language and the lumping together of North Korea, Iran, and Iraq, particularly North Korea. On one hand, you're talking about Al-Qaeda and terrorist networks, and then you move to other types of enemies and terrorism, and I think you sort of have apples and oranges there with North Korea and Iran and Iraq and lumping them all together. Why not include some other countries as well that are on our list of terrorist nations? Iran is certainly on our list of terrorist nations. It also has a more moderate regime now than it did some time ago. I thought it was I'm not an elected official, but I certainly would not have made those comments about North Korea, given the long-term relations in East Asia. I'm a bit perplexed by it. Madeleine Albright said that it was a bad move. Of course, a lot of people don't agree with Madeleine Albright, so what does that mean? But I was perplexed by it, but I'm not in the State Department. But I have the feeling that this is a product of the stronger, the harder line, more hawkish folks in the Defense Department, Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, trumping Colin Powell and some others. That's my best guess on it.
Okay. We're going to take a break, though. I'm going to get your reaction to this in a second, Dr. Sweet. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more talking about politics. Stay with us. Feedback continues after the break.
I'll take Simmons.
Give me Jones.
Anderson.
Smith.
Lightfoot.
Bishop.
Hernandez.
Swifka.
Harris.
Lavender.
Peavy.
Yes.
In the game of life, you've got a much better chance at getting picked for a cool job with great pay if you take algebra, geometry, and calculus. You need to know how math can improve your future. Demand it. Call NACME. We'll tell you.
Wardrobe for some TV5 News staff provided by Fashion Bug, located in the Clarion Mall. Whether you're looking for junior trendy or fashion for women, they have it all with many different styles. Fashion Bug also offers a wide selection of accessories. Fashion Bug is located in the Clarion Mall, just off of exit 62 of Interstate 80. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. and Sunday from noon till 5.
This portion of programming is sponsored by Reese Brothers, located in Drake Square Building in Oil City. Reese Brothers offers a competitive hourly wage, plus daily bonuses, flexible scheduling, company-sponsored health benefits, and paid professional training. Call today at 1-800-365-3500, extension 684, or 677-9236 for your personal interview, or stop by and visit the Drake Square Building. Reese Brothers, where integrity and technology connect.
Hi everybody, I'm Brandy. How would you like to give hope to millions of the world's children? UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, is saving lives in over 140 countries by providing kids with medicine, clean water, nutrition, and education. With your help, UNICEF can make a huge difference in our world. For more information, call 1-800-FOR-KIDS. Thank you.
Welcome back. We are talking politics tonight on Feedback with Dr. Barry Sweet and Dr. Keven Yenerall, both of the Clarion University Political Science Department. So before I so rudely interrupted Dr. Sweet's response before the break, your response to the axis of evil and that wording in the State of the Union address?
Well, I agree with Dr. Yenerall to a great degree. I thought it was very strange and maybe a bit uncomfortable, thinking maybe the president had something in mind, some additional military action, which I'm not sure in favor of at this point, at least against those three countries, but it was kind of weird to lump them together. I mean, all three of those countries certainly are involved in disruptive activity, either exporting weapons of various sorts. North Korea has a weapons program, and they've been sending out ballistic missile technology. We know that the Iranians and Iraqis are involved in activities with terrorism. But to suggest that some sort of axis of evil, that they're working together, like World War II, where you have the Germans, the Italians, and the Japanese working together, I just don't see it that way. And I think that's an awkward way to group them together, because they're really quite different. And also, look at Iran and Iraq are historic enemies. Remember, during the 80s, they spent about 8 years, I believe, 8 or 10 years, I forget exactly how long that war lasted. I think about 8 years, 80 to 88, I believe, killing each other. And so it's kind of weird to suggest now that they're somehow working together. There's some sort of axis. Right. And then the group North Korea in there. So I think it was a bit strange. It's made a lot of our allies uncomfortable. I think certainly these countries need to be watched, but I'm not sure. And if they take some sort of action, we should respond to it. But I'm not sure if we should do anything beyond that.
Right. Can I stick in 15 seconds on axis, because Barry made a good point. State of the Union speeches are worked on for weeks and weeks ahead of time by the White House speech writing staff, sometimes the president's, testing ideas, ordering ideas, prioritizing, and words are chosen very carefully for particular reactions. And we know we have a reaction to the word axis, or to axis, not access, axis. And the notion that these three are somehow in cahoots and working together, and that there are other countries outside this sort of sphere of evil that are all right, I think is pretty bizarre. And I think it's what it is. It's a replacement for the phrase rogue states. What was popular for years in the Defense Department and the State Department was to call states rogue states outside of the the realm of regular peace-loving nations, and then they did away with that phrase. But I think this is sort of a replacement phrase for it. And they knew what they were doing, and they wanted a particular response, and it's pretty tough language.
Okay, let's move on from the current administration, and let's go back to the man that could have been the current administration, Al Gore. He's back in the news. Fundraising, and he's out there on inside politics quite frequently. I've seen him. What's the deal here? Is Gore gearing up now? He's saying, I'm, getting back on the horse, and I'm going to try this again?
Well, this might seem like a strange parallel. Maybe Dr. Yenerall will not agree, but I sort of looked at this, thinking about this. I looked at Richard Nixon. After he lost the election in 1960, then he lost the governor's race in 62. Everyone thought that he was pretty much through, and he sort of went around afterwards campaigning for people, helping to raise funds, and sort of reintegrated and ingratiated himself with the Republican Party, and then he became the 68 nominee. So maybe Al Gore, he loses the 2000 election, drops off the radar screen for a while. Now he's coming back. He's going around fundraising, helping people out. And maybe he's is grooming himself, sort of feeling the water, see what's going to happen. But that's just my guess. Maybe Dr. Yenerall has a different idea.
Do you like that parallel or no?
A little bit of it yes, a little bit of it no. I think there's a better chance of me losing 10 pounds and Al Gore getting the Democratic nomination again. And I say this as a Democrat, and here's why. Gore can now step into this position as elder party statesman, wise man, bearded man. He's got the beard, don't forget the beard. And a lot of Democrats feel bad for him because they say, look, the guy probably won the election and is not president. He's probably better liked now, and there's more enthusiasm for Gore now among party regulars than there was when he ran for president. The days when people ran 2 times, 3 times for the nomination, I think those are long gone. I think once you have that shot, that's your shot, and that's it. And Gore's been in politics a long time. He ran for president in '88, 2 times vice presidential candidate, and then a presidential candidate. I think the Democrats will definitely look elsewhere, but I think he'll be very good for Democrats in raising money, getting out to pivotal districts, pivotal states where there are Senate seats and House seats that are up for grabs, and that will be his role. And I would really be astonished if he goes out and makes another run. I think you'd have to see really all the top Democrats that will go out the next time fall by the wayside or have scandals for that to happen. But I think he has a great future as a spokesman for the party, an activist for the party, but and raising money for the party. I really doubt that he will run again, or particularly he would be nominated again.
We're running out of time, but I do want to, I didn't brief you guys on this, but I just thought it was off the top of my head. Pennsylvania governor's race. This is going to be big. Primary coming up. Rendell and Casey. I think you'll know where I stand when I ask the question. Does Rendell have a chance in the primary?
Well, I only have a few words here because I'm not an expert in the Democratic Party like Dr. Yenerall. I think Rendell has a chance at this point. I would have thought for some reason I was watching this earlier and I thought Casey was going to walk away with it. But I think lately Rendell seems to be turning it on. I still think Casey's going to get the nomination, and I think Casey's the better choice. But I still think that Rendell, is turning it on. He's got a big war chest. Last I checked, over $10 million, and I think it's going to be a tough race. But I think Casey will squeak it out. But I'll defer to Dr. Yenerall on this.
Mr. Expert.
And yet I agree with mostly with everything Barry said because up until recently I thought Casey would walk away with it too. But Rendell is a charismatic individual, and he does have the base in Southeast Philadelphia, and he has a lot of money. And when he gets out on the campaign trail, and he's a pretty magnetic personality, I think he's going to do better than anticipated, and I think make this a real race. I still think Casey definitely has the edge. Casey has the edge among rank-and-file Democrats, union Democrats, activist Democrats. But if Rendell can do fairly well in western Pennsylvania, maybe 15-20% or so, in all these areas where Casey's going to win big, and then still carry Philadelphia by 75 or 80%, then he has a shot. But I definitely think Casey is the man to beat. Casey is now coming close. In fact, we were talking about this the other day, Barry and I, in terms of money with Rendell. And so because of it, I still think Casey is the favored candidate. But what you have here, Mark, is classic. Two 800-pound gorillas going at it, 2 superstars within the party, different wings of the party, and they're gonna when they scuffle, there's some shots are gonna land and so forth. But I think Casey has the edge.
Okay, well, we have to end it there. We will, the governor's race should be fascinating. Thank you guys for coming in and talking to us. We will be right back to wrap things up on feedback after this.
Through a grant by Fox's Pizza Den. Fox's Pizza Den is located on Old Route 66 in Clarion and offers all-day delivery. Phone 226-5555. That's 226-5555. Fox's Pizza Den is open 7 days a week for your convenience. Phone 226-5555.
Do you want complete coverage of local, state, national, and international news as it happens?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TV5 News Live.
Then tune in to Clarion's very own TV5 News Live for complete coverage of the Clarion area and our world. TV5 News crews join with crews from the world's news leader, CNN, to provide complete coverage of the day's events. With advanced satellite capabilities, TV5 News can bring you the latest news as it happens. So tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings for Clarion's very own TV5 News Live.
On September 11th, America faced terrorist attacks of the worst kind. Innocent lives were lost, and a sad cloud was cast over this great nation. These acts were intended to cause fear among all Americans, including our children. But we cannot let that happen. There are things we can do to help our kids. Talk with them. Listen to them. Tell them they're safe and that they're loved. God bless you, and God bless America.
This portion of the program was made possible through a grant from Clarion Hospital. Clarion Hospital is located off of Exit 9 of Interstate 80. Clarion Hospital offers outpatient services, transitional care, as well as an emergency room open around the clock every day of the year. More than 400 employees and 80 physicians work to serve the community. Call the Clarion Hospital at 226-9500. Clarion Hospital, providing health care to Clarion County and surrounding communities since 1954. Here for the ending shot. And that is it for feedback. Thanks for joining us tonight. I want to thank our political stars, Dr. Keven Yenerall and Dr. Barry Sweet. Always a good time to chat with them. Coming up on Thursday on this program, Valentine's Day. Show's not totally booked, though, but one of the things we're talking about is I did the interview with him yesterday. I told you I wasn't going to tease too much of it last week. I'll tease a little bit now. It's called The Rejection Line. What is that? Watch feedback at 7:30 on Thursday, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow night for TV5 News Live at 7, followed by Sports Night. Have a good night, everybody.